Good morning and welcome to the Franco-British Network. I'm Sasha, Public Relations Officer. This is Sarah. She is the FBN's trusted advisor experienced in visas. Sarah, turning to you now. First of all, the topic of today is a 6 months tourist visa. Let's kick off with the first question, which is, what is a 6 months tourist visa? Can you tell us a few words?
The 6 month tourist visa will allow flexibility to the country you want to travel to. For example, from the UK to France, from the States to France, etc. If you want to come but not become a resident, just be able to stay more than the 90 days, then the tourist visa is the one that you want to apply for.
Good, thank you. Now, turning to the next question, burning question, how does one apply for the 6 months tourist visa?
The application is done online and through an appointment at your visa centre, depending on which country. It can be a TLS, it can be a VFS, it depends. So you find a visa centre, you book your appointment, that's the priority. And after, you will create your application online on France Visas to be able to apply for the visa.
Okay, so nowadays it's an online application.
Yes, you do have to turn up at the appointment for the fingerprints and for the photos.
Okay, so to recap, in short, it's an online application, and then when you go to the visa centre, you hand over your documentation and your passport, yes, and give fingerprints. Maybe I'm already sort of anticipating the next question, which is, when does one apply? Might be an obvious question to some, but tell us more, please.
You can apply for a visa 3 months maximum prior to travel. So if you apply, for example, on the 1st of January, your travel date can be in the next 3 months. Obviously, if you put your start date of the visa of the 1st of March, even if you travel before, your visa does not start till the 1st of March. So you will use your 90 days. You won't have enough time because they do keep the passport, and that can be from 1 week to 20 working days, for example, in the UK. So you want to give enough time and make sure that you've got no travel plans between the moment you apply and the moment you travel and get your visa back. However, yeah, you want to, at least 2 months before is a good idea, just to make sure that you've got the visa, that there was no documents missing, that there was not a hiccup with the file, because obviously a passport that expires too soon can cause an issue to the visa and jeopardize the application.
Thank you for mentioning that, because my next question to you this morning is, what documentation is needed, please, for the 6 months tourist visa?
For the 6 months visa, you need to make sure that you've got a passport that has enough time left on it. So you're usually looking at 18 months still available on the passport. Photos, healthcare, which can be an S1, or it can be private healthcare if you don't work in the UK. You need sufficient funds. So it's minimum wage, which is around 1,300 euros in France at the moment, per month. And you need a property or a rental in France, or a place for proof of accommodation.
Okay, so you do need to make your arrangements and have all this documentation. Not only have the documentation ready, but make your arrangements, as you're saying, accommodation
Yes.
in France. If you're renting, you need to be able to have a full 6 months.
Yes.
Very good. Now, slowly drawing this conversation to an end, do you have any tips, Sarah, at this point in time for the 6 months tourist visa?
All I can recommend is to be very careful, obviously, when you're applying for a 6 month visa, to not overstep other laws, for example, the tax ones. In France, if you stay in France over 183 days in the year, you become a fiscal resident. So getting a 6 month visa does not mean that after you can come back on the other 90 days on the next 180, because automatically you will go over the number of days for the fiscal year, which means that you will become a tax resident. So there are small details like that you do need to look into. Once the visa expires, you cannot apply for a new one for the next 6 months. You'll be able to apply for your next one 6 months later. So you have to be very careful with your calculations and how long you stay. Once you've got the visa, it does not mean that you're going to have to stay in France those 6 months. You can come out, go back and forward, but do keep a note of those days for tax purposes.
Okay. You've actually answered my question, which was word of caution. You've actually answered my question on that. Very good. Anything you want to add before we draw this conversation to a close?
I would really recommend just being very careful on how the application happens, what you put in your application, how you word it. You don't want to put that you're going to be working in France, because that's not authorized. You want to be very, very careful what you put and what you do. If you've got a doubt, it's better to actually ask a professional to help, because if you don't, the risk of error is huge. and it could jeopardize the visa, and which means that you can't apply again after. Obviously, once you're in France, if you decide to take up residency, you don't have to wait 6 months for the next visa. You can actually go back and ask for a residency visa at that point. But I guess that will be another conversation.
It is. Thank you. Don't say too much, please, Sarah. That'll be our next podcast. Well, thank you very much. Thank you to you all for following. And if you've got any questions, please visit the Franco-British Network website, which is www.francobrishnetwork.fr. And as Sarah said, we'll be soon recording a new podcast. So watch our website for some more news. Thank you very much and have a lovely day. Bye for now.